There is a quiet, deeply frustrating moment that almost every gardener experiences at some point. You stand in your backyard, looking down at a pepper plant that you have nurtured for weeks, maybe even months. The leaves are a decent shade of green, and the plant looks healthy enough from a distance. But as you step closer, you realize something is terribly wrong. There are no peppers. Perhaps a few tiny flowers appeared a week ago, but instead of turning into crisp, vibrant peppers, they simply withered and fell off, leaving behind empty stems. You ask yourself what you did wrong. You watered it, you gave it soil, and you watched over it, yet it refuses to produce. Many gardeners assume they simply don't have a green thumb and give up on growing peppers altogether, believing that these temperamental plants are best left to commercial farms. But here is where the real secret begins. Growing an abundance of peppers, the kind that causes the branches of your plants to bend under the sheer weight of the harvest, is not a matter of luck. It is a science, wrapped in a few simple, time-tested techniques that have been passed down through generations of master gardeners. To truly understand how to make a pepper plant thrive, we have to look at where these plants came from. Peppers belong to the Solanaceae family, native to the warm, sun-drenched regions of the Americas. They are, by their very nature, children of the sun. Most gardeners don't know this, but the amount of direct sunlight a pepper plant receives does far more than just help it grow. It acts as the plant's primary defense system. When a pepper plant is bathed in 6 to 8 hours of intense, direct sunlight daily, its internal chemistry changes. The plant produces thicker cell walls, making the leaves tough and resilient. This intense light exposure also increases the concentration of natural compounds within the sap, which acts as a powerful deterrent against common pests like aphids, mealybugs, and whiteflies. Furthermore, the heat from the sun rapidly evaporates any lingering moisture on the surface of the plant, creating an environment where destructive fungal spores, such as anthracnose, simply cannot survive. If you are growing your peppers in a backyard garden, you must choose the brightest, most unshaded spot available. But what if you live in an apartment or a home with limited yard space? This is a common hurdle that stops many urban gardeners in their tracks. Fortunately, peppers adapt beautifully to container gardening, provided you make one crucial adjustment. You must place your pots on a south-facing balcony, patio, or windowsill where the sun hits with the greatest intensity throughout the day. If the natural light is still insufficient, the plant will begin to stretch, becoming tall, spindly, and weak as it searches for light. When this happens, the plant diverts all its energy into growing taller rather than producing fruit. Understanding this relationship between light, energy, and defense is the first step toward unlocking a massive harvest, but it is only the foundation of a much larger blueprint. Once you have secured the perfect sun-drenched location for your pepper plants, you must confront the second most common mistake in pepper cultivation: the way you water them. It is incredibly easy to walk out to the garden with a hose, set the nozzle to a gentle shower, and spray the entire plant from top to bottom. It feels natural, like a refreshing rain shower. However, this simple act can slowly and quietly destroy your plants. When you water the leaves of a pepper plant, you leave behind droplets of moisture that cling to the foliage. In the gardening world, standing water on leaves is an open invitation for disaster. Fungal spores are constantly floating through the air, completely invisible to the naked eye. When these spores land on a wet leaf, especially during the cooler evening hours or in shaded areas, they germinate and penetrate the plant's tissues. Within days, you will start to see dark spots, powdery mildew, or rotting stems. To prevent this, you must adopt a strict policy of watering only the soil at the base of the plant. By keeping the foliage dry and directing the water straight to the root zone, you ensure that the plant gets the hydration it needs while depriving harmful fungi of the moisture they require to multiply. This brings us to the heart of pepper production: nutrition. To transition a pepper plant from a state of simple survival to explosive fruit production, you must feed it the correct balance of nutrients. Many gardeners run to the local garden center and grab a standard balanced fertilizer, such as a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20 formula. While these balanced fertilizers are fine for general maintenance, they are not designed to maximize fruit yields. To achieve a truly spectacular harvest, you need a highly specific nutritional ratio known as NPK, 10-10-10-30. To understand why this specific formula is so powerful, we must break down what these numbers actually mean for the plant's biology. The first number represents nitrogen, which is responsible for leafy green growth. A modest 10% is perfect because too much nitrogen will cause the plant to produce massive, lush green leaves at the expense of flowers and fruit. The second number represents phosphorus, which stimulates strong root development and triggers the initial formation of flower buds. The final and most important number for our goal is potassium, which stands at a massive 30%. Potassium is the ultimate engine of fruit development. It acts as a regulator within the plant, controlling the opening and closing of stomata, which allows the plant to breathe and manage water efficiently. More importantly, potassium is responsible for transporting sugars and starches from the leaves directly into the developing peppers. This high concentration of potassium ensures that once a flower is pollinated, the plant has the energy to hold on to that tiny fruit, preventing blossom drop and allowing the pepper to grow thick-walled, heavy, and incredibly flavorful. If you cannot find a 10-10-30 formula, high-potassium alternatives like an 18-18-18 or a 20-20-20 can work. But prioritizing that high-potassium ratio is the real secret to a legendary harvest. Knowing what to feed your pepper plants is only half the battle. You must also know how to apply it. Many well-meaning gardeners make the mistake of dumping fertilizer granules directly against the main stem of the plant. This is a critical error. Fertilizers are highly concentrated salts, and placing them in direct contact with the tender crown of the plant can cause severe chemical burns, damaging the vascular system and potentially killing the plant overnight. To apply the NPK 10-10-10-30 fertilizer safely and effectively, you must use a technique known as the half-moon trench. First, locate the main stem of your pepper plant. Measure out approximately 10 to 12 inches away from the stem. Using a small hand trowel, gently dig a shallow, semicircular trench in the soil, forming a half-moon shape around one side of the plant. This distance is crucial because it aligns perfectly with the drip line of the plant, which is where the active feeder roots are located. These fine, fibrous roots are responsible for absorbing water and dissolved nutrients, while the thick roots close to the stem are primarily for structural support. Before you drop the fertilizer into the trench, you must assess the current health and size of your plant to determine the correct dosage. This is where you must learn to read your plant's body language. If your pepper plant is young, moderately sized, and not yet carrying a heavy load of fruit, a light dose of 30 grams, roughly 1½ level tablespoons, is sufficient. However, if you have a large, mature plant that is already trying to support dozens of developing peppers, or if the plant looks visibly exhausted and depleted, you should increase the dose to 50 grams, which is about 2 very full tablespoons. I learned this the hard way after years of trial and error. Plants under heavy production require an immense amount of energy, and underfeeding them during this critical window will cause the developing peppers to remain small, thin-walled, and prone to rotting. Once you have measured the correct amount, distribute the granules evenly along the bottom of your half-moon trench. Carefully push the soil back over the trench, Burying the fertilizer completely. This is the step many people skip, yet it is the most critical part of the entire process. You must water the area thoroughly immediately after burying the fertilizer. Chemical fertilizers cannot be absorbed by plant roots in their dry, granular form. They require moisture to dissolve, breaking down into charged ions that the roots can easily pull up into the plant's vascular system. By watering deeply, you initiate this chemical breakdown and ensure that the nutrients begin moving toward the roots right away. This feeding ritual should be repeated exactly once a month throughout the active growing season to maintain a continuous, uninterrupted flow of nutrients. Even with perfect sunlight, precise watering, and the ultimate nutrient regimen, there is still one hidden threat that can bring your pepper-growing dreams to a sudden halt. It usually starts quietly. You walk out to your garden and notice that the brand-new leaves at the very top of your pepper plant are starting to look wrinkled, puckered, and distorted. They curl inward, looking stunted and sickly. Many gardeners panic, assuming their plant has contracted a fatal viral disease or that they have severely overwatered. But there is a catch. If you flip one of those wrinkled leaves over and look incredibly closely, perhaps even using a magnifying glass, you will discover the true culprits. You will see microscopic, eight-legged creatures moving slowly across the leaf surface, surrounded by incredibly fine, dusty webbing. These are spider mites. Unlike larger pests, spider mites do not chew holes in the leaves. Instead, they use their tiny, needle-like mouthparts to pierce the individual plant cells and suck out the nutrient-rich sap. This localized draining of fluids causes the leaf cells to collapse, resulting in the characteristic wrinkled, deformed appearance of the foliage. Left unchecked, a spider mite infestation will quickly sap the strength of the entire plant, causing all the flowers to drop and halting pepper production completely. Fortunately, there is an incredibly effective, time-tested solution that experienced gardeners have used for decades: water-soluble sulfur. Sulfur is a naturally occurring element that acts as a powerful, dual-action weapon in the garden. When sprayed onto the foliage, it acts as a highly effective miticide, disrupting the respiratory and nervous systems of the spider mites on contact. At the same time, sulfur is an excellent fungicide, preventing any lingering fungal spores from taking hold on your plants. To apply this treatment, purchase high-quality water-soluble sulfur from a local agricultural supply store or garden center. Mix the powder with water according to the specific instructions on the packaging, and pour the mixture into a clean hand sprayer. Here is a vital rule of application. You must only spray your plants during the coolest, most shaded part of the day, either in the early morning, just as the sun is rising, or in the late evening after the sun has set. Applying sulfur during the heat of the day under direct sunlight can cause a chemical reaction that burns the leaves of your plants. When you spray, be incredibly thorough. Ensure you coat both the tops and, most importantly, the undersides of every single leaf, as this is where the spider mites hide and lay their eggs. For a mild infestation, 2 applications spaced about 7 to 10 days apart will completely break the pest life cycle. What happened next, when I first applied this complete system to my own garden, absolutely blew me away, and the results became visible just days later. Within 48 hours of the first deep watering after fertilizing, the leaves of my pepper plants took on a deep, rich, glossy green color. By day 7, the wrinkled, mite-damaged leaves were replaced by a flush of beautiful, flat, vibrant new growth. By week 2, a massive wave of pristine white blossoms erupted across the entire canopy of the plants, and by the end of the month, those blossoms had transformed into a heavy, dense curtain of thick, shiny, perfectly formed peppers. This is the exact blueprint used by master growers to achieve legendary yields. And now you have the knowledge to recreate these spectacular results in your own garden. If you want to continue uncovering these deep, practical gardening secrets and transform your backyard into an abundant paradise, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share this video with your fellow gardeners. Drop a comment below, letting me know what variety of pepper you are currently growing, and let's grow together. Until next time, happy gardening.